49ers preseason winners and losers coming at you on the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I am Chase Sr. I hope all of you are enjoying your Saturdays. College football is back. I know I've been watching all throughout the day, but I wanted to talk some Niners football. That's what we're accomplishing on today's video. So before we get to the 49ers preseason winners and losers with the regular season, a little more than a week away, Niners set to kick off next weekend against the Detroit Lions in week 1. Hit that red subscribe button down below, because whether we're at the Chat Sports studios or if I'm at the crib, we're bringing you year-round 49ers coverage, and we're getting closer and closer to 40,000 subscribers. Let's start with the winners. I want to get to JaMycal Hasty because I think his play in the preseason really earned him that roster spot on the initial 53-man roster. You look at his numbers throughout the preseason slate, combined against the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Raiders: 35 carries, 176 yards, 5 yards per pop, and 3 touchdowns. It was really that flash touchdown against the Raiders in that preseason finale, 35 yards to the house, where Hasty really showed that he can hit that next gear. We know that he's a very physical downhill running back, and I love those qualities about him, but I wanted to see his getaway speed, and on that touchdown run, I saw a little bit of that. As for some of his weaknesses, there's no doubt that Hasty has a little bit of a fumbling problem. There was a fumble at an inopportune time against KC in that preseason opener, but I like what Hasty brings to the table and the blend that he has in addition to the other running backs in this stable for Kyle Shanahan. He's tough, he's physical, runs downhill. I think he can be a situational short yardage back in the regular season. I don't think he's going to be firmly entrenched on the bench. I actually do think he can play. And at the end of the day, what did Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch do? They went with a young running back who's only 24 years old. He's been with this organization now for a little while out of Baylor. He's a developmental prospect to a certain degree still, and they went with the 24-year-old Hasty over the 26-year-old Gallman. And let's credit Kyle Shanahan and running backs coach Robert Turner for how they've been able to develop running backs over time. It honestly feels as though every running back that Kyle Shanahan has gotten his hands on since he became the head coach of this organization, that running back has ended up being very, very effective, very efficient, and a quality player. Kyle Shanahan has never really gone with a bell cow running back. It's always gone running back by committee in his outside zone scheme. So he plugs and plays a lot of his backs, and a lot of them have ended up being very, very successful when they've been able to stay on the field and away from injuries. And I think if you give Hasty some carries in the regular season, he's going to be able to pick up some yards in crucial spots and give this offense a little bit of pop, a little bit of physicality in addition to the other running backs on this roster, because my goodness, San Francisco over time has become a running back development factory. So this is what I want you to do, Niner gang. I understand that we don't have all the fancy graphics that were popping up on your screen right now, but I just want to talk Niners football from the crib because I do appreciate and love the Niner gang. So grade JaMycal Hasty's preseason performance for me, A, B, C, D, or F. Get those votes in down below in the comments section. Preseason winner number 2, wide receiver Trent Sherfield. There were rumblings early in training camp that Sherfield was balling. There was that highlight reel play in practice when Trey Lance sent some pressure, rolled to his left, threw a back-footed deep bomb to Sherfield in stride for that long touchdown. But what we saw immediately was Sherfield's training camp production translate to the game field in actual preseason games, and it didn't take long. He was on the receiving end of Trey Lance's first professional touchdown pass when there was that design quarterback rollout to his left. Lance threw across the field once again, right on the money to Trent Sherfield, and he showed that pop. He showed that explosion after the catch. So he does that in week 1 in the preseason against KC. Then week 2, there was that big drive for Lance with under a minute to go before halftime when Lance led the offense down the field on that touchdown drive, 75 yards. It was that touchdown catch that Travis Benjamin, I believe, had caught, or maybe it was actually Mohamed Sanu. But the big play to put that touchdown in motion was another big play from Lance to Sherfield. That reception that went 40 plus yards. And Sherfield, in practices as well as in training camp, has shown the propensity to be a big play maker. And that explosion, that speed, that getaway ability to pick up yards after the catch has certainly popped throughout the preseason. He's also made some really nice catches in traffic. He's been reliable with his hands. He's really strong too. Lower body, upper body. I like everything that Sherfield's been able to bring to the table. And he kind of moves and has a frame. I've talked about this a couple times on the channel, of an Antonio Brown type of player. I'm not saying that Sherfield over the next 8 to 10 years is going to go on a near decade-long run like Antonio Brown went on in Pittsburgh, which puts him in the Hall of Fame conversation. But I do think Sherfield is the third best wide receiver on this roster behind Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. You can flip-flop those guys 1 or 2 depending on your preference, but I think Sherfield is the number 3 wideout on this roster. I think he's very, very talented. He's obviously younger, more spry than a guy like Mohamed Sanu. I'd like to see Sanu play more primarily out of the slot. Sherfield can do that, but most importantly, he can line up outside as well. So I think he's been the best storyline in training camp outside of the development of Trey Lance. That's how good Trent Sherfield has been, and I do expect him to be an impact player in 2021 this upcoming season. And the Niners are looking at a guy right now who they signed at 25 years old who has a base salary of $920,000. If he goes on to have a very productive season, that could go down as one of the best steals in all of NFL free agency. Next question I got for you, faithful. Will Sherfield be third in receiving yards among wide receivers? Don't factor in George Kittle because he's a tight end. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Once again, get those votes in the comment section down below. 2 more preseason winners to get to, and I'm going to kind of combine them because they're 2 fifth-round picks that the Niners were able to get late in the draft, and Deommodore Lenoir, the cornerback out of Oregon, and Talanoa Hufanga, the hybrid safety linebacker out of USC. You're looking now at those 2 rookies and Jalen Moore, who was also drafted in the 5th round, as 3 guys who could play immediately, because I think Lenoir and Hufanga are definitely going to get snaps. If an injury does happen along the offensive line, Jalen Moore can fill in and play. I like his guard tackle versatility. If that ends up being the case and you get 3 productive players in round 5, that's good stuff by John Lynch in the NFL draft to get quality players that late who can potentially be immediate playmakers and contributors down the road. Let's focus in, though, on Lenoir and Hufanga because they are 2 of my winners on this segment. I thought Lenoir held up really well in coverage. He barely gave up any receptions, didn't give up any big plays, had an interception against the Chiefs, had a nice read there on that play, intercepting that batted ball. I like his instincts. I like his physicality at the cornerback position. He showed a lot of quality speed at Oregon. He was a 4.4 guy. He has good length, good size, good physicality. That's going to be able to hold up in the National Football League when all of the rule changes have favored the offense. If you can get away with playing some press man, some physical outside coverage as a corner like Lenoir has been able to do in the preseason, you're going to be in this league for a long time. So I thought he held up really well in coverage. And as for Hufanga, he was all around the field. He was playing like a heat-seeking missile on special teams, on defense as a safety. There were some times when he was playing a little hybrid linebacker as well. And I know that at his pro day at USC, his testing numbers weren't off the charts. He ran like a 4.6 40, but because of his instincts, his ability to dissect and identify plays, he always seemed to be a half step ahead of the offense, and those reads allowed him to make plays, whether that be in the backfield or in the secondary or at that second level. I love what Hufanga was able to bring to the table throughout the preseason, and I thought Lenoir was very impressive as well. Hufanga obviously able to get on the field a lot in preseason and in training camp. He looked prepared because Jaquiski Tartt was out with that turf toe injury. He didn't come back until that preseason finale against the Chargers. So the arrow certainly pointing up for those two rookies in Lenoir and Hufanga. They're my last two preseason winners. Who was your biggest preseason winner? Drop a name in the comments section. Let me know. I'm going to go back and check to see which guys I missed out on. If you want to rip me, you can certainly do so. Some of you might be asking about Trey Lance. We knew coming in to the preseason and in his rookie season, he was going to be raw. This is a quarterback prospect who was 20 years old when he got drafted. He only played one full season at North Dakota State, only attempted a little more than 300 passes throughout his collegiate career. The completion percentage was below 50. A lot of reasons for that. Didn't put a lot of touch on his short to intermediate throws. I thought that his accuracy had waned at times. There were also a lot of drop passes. What you look for in the preseason for a young, raw quarterback is the overall ability. And Trey Lance displayed so much ability from an arm talent point of view, but also his escapability and athleticism. I just don't think he did enough to string together consistent play to be a preseason winner. As for preseason losers, let's get to it. More of a group thing here to start. The offensive line play. An overall loss in the preseason across the board. I like the starting offensive line unit for the 49ers going into week 1 against the Lions, and I think they're going to be able to hold up well throughout the season as long as catastrophic injuries don't happen. Trent Williams at left tackle, Laken Tomlinson at left guard, Alex Mack at center, Daniel Brunskill at right guard, and Mike McGlinchey at right tackle, who needs to be better in 2021. That's a pretty solid starting offensive line unit. But after that, I have a lot of concerns about the depth along this offensive line. It wasn't good, especially in the first two preseason games. That preseason opener against KC, they were awful. You expect that with the first live game action happening, but I didn't think the offensive line throughout all preseason games was up to snuff. Hopefully it's better come the regular season. And when you look at offensive line issues, if there are injuries there, if there are breakdowns, if there is less than stellar play, all of that can combine to lead to derailing the season. So the offensive line has to be better. That's why I have the O-line as one of the preseason losers. A couple more preseason losers. Ambry Thomas and Aaron Banks. Aaron Banks drafted in the second round as an offensive guard out of Notre Dame. Ambry Thomas drafted in the third round as a defensive back out of Michigan. I was expecting more from Banks. I thought he was going to be your opening day starter at right guard. And a shoulder injury that he suffered, he came back to practice last week, wasn't the big reason why he's not the starting right guard ahead of Daniel Brunskill. It's because his play in preseason training camp wasn't good. Only got limited action in that preseason opener against the Chiefs. Did give up a sack of Trey Lance in that game. That's when he suffered that shoulder injury, so he had to exit early. But Aaron Banks wasn't playing well prior to that preseason opener. And Ambry Thomas didn't look good playing defensive back for the 49ers. In fact, it was Deommodore Lenoir, the 5th-round pick, who we just talked about, who was the better defensive back over Ambry Thomas. And if these guys don't pan out, those are two big misses. I'm not saying that they're misses in the draft just yet. It's way too early to say that. But I think the Niners were expecting that both guys had the potential to come in and contribute right away. I'm not sure that's going to be the case, especially with Thomas, who looked like he just needed and needs more fine-tuning and more development. Not a huge, massive surprise there because he was a COVID opt-out in 2020 and didn't play a ton in 2019, but there's no question Ambry Thomas and Aaron Banks, preseason losers for me because they didn't play well in the games or in practice. I do want to hit on Jimmy Garoppolo. I think you can pinpoint him as a preseason loser. Not because he played awful. He was solid. He was okay. He was above average. And before Niner fans get into the comments section in shambles right now, ripping me for ripping Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm not ripping Jimmy G, okay? I've long said that Jimmy G is a solid starter who led this franchise and helped lead them to the Super Bowl back in 2019. When he's healthy, he's won a lot of games and he's been pretty productive. But in the preseason, he didn't do anything that really was eye-popping for me, and he barely got to play. And it's that on top of the fact that he didn't really do anything to separate himself from Trey Lance or kill any of the conversation about there being a quarterback competition. I think what we're going to see many times throughout the upcoming regular season is a 2-quarterback system between Jimmy G and Trey Lance. If Garoppolo went out in the preseason and training camp and straight up balled out and was unconscious and his accuracy was on point and he was getting rid of the ball with precision and there was a lot of accuracy and that offense was moving fluid, I'm not sure there would be as much talk about Trey Lance possibly taking over at some point in 2021 or there being a 2-quarterback system. But Garoppolo has left the door open for Lance to take his gig at some point. I don't think Lance is ready to start week 1. I do think that at some point this season, he will be ready to take the reins, and that's because Garoppolo, in training camp in the preseason, didn't blow anything out of the water. So I'm going to label him as a preseason loser. Also, Kyle Shanahan was expecting him to play more, and because of in that second preseason game, the Niners went on a long first drive when Garoppolo was supposed to play a quarter to a quarter and a half. He only played 1 possession, so he wasn't able to display what he can maybe bring to the table for this Niners offense. Those are my preseason winners and losers. Speaking of losers, this is your opportunity to label and name your biggest preseason losers. Once again, drop those names into the comment section down below and subscribe to the 49ers Report for the best 49ers news and rumors right here on YouTube. We do news and rumors segments, fun segments like this one, live Q&As during our live shows on Tuesdays, and we hit you with the hard-hitting analysis that's very informative and entertaining, but also we like to have fun. So if you want all that, hit that red subscribe button down below. And as always, appreciate you for watching and making the 49ers Report a part of your day. Have a good weekend.